Hey everybody, welcome back to day 4 of the Rivals of Ixalan set reviews on the Mana Leek. I'm John, as always. Today we're going to take a look at all of the red cards in Rivals of Ixalan. This, of course, is a limited-only set review. We're only talking about draft and sealed here, not constructed in any way, shape, or form, so keep that in mind. And I do want to hear your comments down below. Talk to me, talk amongst yourselves. What cards do you agree with? What cards do you not agree with? Which ones are you excited about? Let me know. Up first is Blood Sun, the opposite of Blood Moon. Blood Sun is 2 and a red for an enchantment at rare. When Blood Sun enters the battlefield, draw a card. All lands lose all abilities except mana abilities. This is basically 3 mana for half a divination in limited. The rest is flavor text, more or less. Yeah, there's a couple of lands that would be nice. Like, yeah, I'd like to turn off the Compass land that's Mazavith on the backside. That'd be nice. But realistically, you should never, ever be main decking this, and you should honestly rarely be siding it in. I've got this at a D-. It's probably just an F. Don't take Blood Sun. Don't play Blood Sun. Up next is Bombard. Bombard is 2 and a red for an instant at common. Bombard deals 4 damage to target creature. Yeah, 4 damage, 3 mana, instant speed. Super solid, very high pick, possibly first pick if the pack is lacking bombs or I guess like an impale or something, like unconditional removal. But yeah, this is really good. Just a solid B. Maybe it is like a low B just because there are dinosaurs and stuff this won't hit, but it's instant speed. It's 3 mana. I'm totally fine with it. B. Up next is another bad red rare, Brass's Bounty. Brass's Bounty is 6 and a red for a sorcery at rare. For each land you control, create a colorless treasure artifact token. That's it. Red decks don't want 7-drops. They sure don't want 7-drops that do nothing other than give them more mana. They don't want to play a 7-drop in the first place. They don't want to play a 14-drop. This card is a complete miss for me, and I don't expect to ever play it unless I'm going real deep on Revel in Riches or something. But with that in pack 3, I just don't even see that happening. So this is just a straight F, probably just an F-. Brazen Freebooter is up next. Brazen Freebooter is 3 and a red for a creature human pirate at common. She's a 3/3. When Brazen Freebooter enters the battlefield, create a colorless treasure artifact token. It's a 3/3 for 4, which is definitely below rate. The treasure does help it out a tiny bit, but I don't think it's enough to bump this up to a full-fledged C. I think you should feel probably slightly bad at playing this, and you should cut it when you can. So C- for Brazen Freebooter. It's a super filler creature, and one that, if you can, I think you just skip it. Buccaneer's Bravado is up next. Buccaneer's Bravado is 1 and a red for an instant at common. Choose 1. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains first strike until end of turn. Or target pirate gets +1/+1 and gains double strike until end of turn. Obviously, if you're casting this on the pirate, you're choosing the second one. There's no reason that I can think of that you would choose the first one, except perhaps if you didn't want to enable Enrage twice, but I don't think you'd be casting this anyways in that situation where that would matter. This is a fine enough combat trick, and you'll certainly lose to it just out of nowhere when suddenly a 3/3 pirate is hitting you for 6 and you thought you were alive and now you're dead. But it can also just be a first strike combat trick that often feels kind of like removal. All around fine. You shouldn't go out of your way to play it though, and if you don't have a spot for this, you don't feel bad playing it. It's just a normal C combat trick. Up next is Charging Tuscadon. Charging Tuscadon is 3 red for a creature dinosaur on common. It's a 4/4 with trample. If Charging Tuscadon would deal combat damage to a player, it deals double that damage instead. So it's a 4/4 trample for 5 with a pretty interesting design. It doesn't have double strike. Don't think of it that way. You might end up doing some dumb attacks, and I probably will at some point. But the extra trample damage does get through for double damage if it's unblocked or if the trample damage just goes over. This is going to lead to some real blowouts, and I think is just a solidly powerful card. Shenanigans will happen with this, but it doesn't even really need those shenanigans. It doesn't necessarily need to have cobbled wings and fly. It doesn't necessarily need to have you bombard their blocker in the combat step and suddenly they're taking 8 when they thought they were actually taking 2 or 0. Without those shenanigans, this card's still completely fine. And with those shenanigans, which aren't even that hard to pull off, this is just a solid B. I think it's a pretty early pick in the pack. Probably never a first pick. It would have to be a real bad pack, but I'd be happy with a Charging Tuscadon. I'd be happy with 2 of them. B. Up next is Daring Buccaneer. Daring Buccaneer is a single red mana for a creature human pirate at uncommon. It's a 2/2. As an additional cost to cast Daring Buccaneer, reveal a pirate card from your hand or pay 2. Unlike the previous types of these cards, it doesn't do anything else. Doesn't draw a card like the Silvergill Adept, doesn't have flying and lifelink, doesn't have anything. It's a vanilla 2/2 for 1 if you have a pirate in hand, and for 3 if you don't. So this obviously completely runs the gambit of, are you guaranteed to have a pirate? If you are, this is fine. It's like a C+. It's a 2/2 for 1. You know, we're often getting 2/1s for 1, and not even that often, to be honest. But if this is a 2/2 for 3 vanilla, it's absolute garbage. So, you know, pick this relatively late. Pick this when you know you're in pirates. Play it when you know you are going to have a pirate to reveal. Because if you have to pay this for 3, you're just going to feel real bad. So it's like a C+ in the heavy pirate deck, and it's probably just like a D in the not heavy pirate deck. Next up is Direfleet Daredevil. Direfleet Daredevil is 1 and a red for a creature human pirate at rare. It's a 2/1 with first strike. When Direfleet Daredevil enters the battlefield, exile target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard. You may cast that card this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast that spell. If that card would be put into the graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So it's like reverse Snapcaster Mage. It's a 2/1 for 2. It has an ability, in this case first strike instead of flash, which is very relevant. And instead of targeting a spell of yours and giving it flashback, you're basically targeting an opponent's spell and giving it flashback. Really cool design. But relying on your opponent to have stuff that you want to cast isn't super where you want to be. But this is a 2/1 first strike for 2. That's already a super fine card. Remember Ether Chaser? It was obviously potentially better than this because it made the servos, but it was a 2/1 for first strike for 2, and that's a real big game. I think this is first pick. It's probably definitely behind removal. I don't think it's a bomb exactly. And I think it does cap out at a B, just because to get the full value off of this thing, you need to have your opponent to have something worthwhile casting. And that's just not going to happen all the time. But at its absolute bottom case, it's still a solid creature. So I'm going to go with a solid B on Direfleet Daredevil. Up next is one of the cards that I am absolutely most excited to play in this set. And I also haven't seen the official pronunciation, so this might be called Italy, which sounds strange. Italy, Primal Storm. Italy. Primal Storm is 4 red for a legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur at rare. It's a 6/6. Whenever Italy, I've got to figure that out. Primal Storm attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. I got a good taste of playing with my opponent's deck in Unstable, playing the blue-black sneak deck and just stealing other cards. And boy, do I want to keep doing that, and I'm glad there's a lot of ways to do that in this set. Yeah, Italy seems fantastic. A 6/6 for 6 is already 100% fine, vanilla test passing. You would play that in some number of sets, but it wouldn't be great. It's starting to get to the diminishing returns area. Getting to cast potentially 2 cards because this attacks is insane. This is basically a Titan. It's a snap first pick, a solid bomb, and I think I've got this just a straight A+. This is the card that I most want to play with. Fanatical Firebrand is up next. Fanatical Firebrand is a single red mana for a creature goblin pirate at common. It's a 1/1 with haste. You can tap it and sacrifice Fanatical Firebrand. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player. It's basically Mog Fanatic, and that's totally fine. It's a very late pick, and it's pretty 23rd cardish, but you won't feel bad playing this. You may side it out here and there if you're not super aggressive, or if your opponent just literally never has anything that this is going to touch. But having just, that 1 damage that can also be a chump blocker if you choose is just good utility. It's a straight up C. I'm never going to feel bad playing this. I'll cut it when I need to, but it is a very late pick. So, don't go picking this too early. Up next is Forerunner of the Empire, the Dinosaur Forerunner. Forerunner of the Empire is 3 and a red for a creature human soldier at uncommon. He's a 1/3. When Forerunner of the Empire enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a dinosaur card, reveal it, and then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it, just like all the other Forerunners. Whenever a dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Forerunner of the Empire deal 1 damage to each creature. So it enables Enrage, and this is probably the best in Rage Enabler that we've seen. Raging Swordtooth from Ixalan is up there as well, just because it's a big dumb 5/5 with trample. But of course, this can go wacky with Polyraptor. You end up getting 8 raptors out of it if you cast a Polyraptor with this on the battlefield. You do kill the Forerunner, but you also have 8 5/5s that can copy themselves. Yeah, Forerunner of the Empire seems really good. I think it is flat out the best Forerunner of all 4 Forerunners out there. I really, really like it. I think it's a pretty high pick and kind of a reason to go into Dinosaurs, especially the Enrage enabling ones. And just because Dinosaurs are big and bomby, so going and finding one is probably going to be a really big game. With vampires, with pirates, with merfolk, yeah, there are some like really amazing rare ones of those, but I feel like frequently with those Forerunners, you're going to be going and getting like, you know, just kind of a middle of the road creature. Whereas with Dinosaurs, you're almost always going to be getting something that's going to be relevant late game. So I think Forerunner is really good. I think it's like a B-. I think you do pick this one kind of early and decide to go into Dinosaurs. Whereas I think the other ones, you kind of want to be heading towards that route a little bit first. They're still good, don't get me wrong. But I think this one is just a little bit of a level above. Up next is Form of the Dinosaur. Form of the Dinosaur is 4 red for an enchantment at rare. When Form of the Dinosaur enters the battlefield, your life total becomes 15. So if you were at 20, you lose 5 life. If you were at 1, you gain 14 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, Form of the Dinosaur deals 15 damage to target creature an opponent controls, and that creature deals damage equal to its power to you. I really have to play with this to figure out how it works. This is obviously based off of Form of the Dragon, which was an enchantment that put your life total to 5 and then dealt 5 every turn to a creature or player. But Form of the Dragon also resets you to 5. So if you took 4 damage and went to 1, you went back up to 5. Here, you are taking damage every turn. It's not a May ability. If there's a creature on board, you have to deal 15 damage to it, and it damages you. And your life total's not getting reset. So I don't know where this is going to be. You are killing a creature every single turn, and that's really, really, really good. Is that worth also taking who knows how much damage each turn just because of this spell, let alone if your opponent's actually continuing to attack you, etc.? I don't know. I'm going to have to play with it. I want to think it's fun, and I will first pick it the first time that I see it, and I'm going to start it at around a B because, yeah, killing something every single turn is going to be pretty darn solid. The only way this is going to be bad is if your opponent has just way too many creatures, in which case you don't play the spell. You have it in your hand. You don't have to play it. But I'm going to start it at a B. I think it can be really good when it comes down. I can also see it being just way too janky. Definitely let me know what you think of Form of the Dinosaur, because I don't really know what to do with this, but I'm going to start high on it. Frilled Death Spitter is up next. Frilled Death Spitter is 2 and a red for a creature dinosaur at common. It's a 3/2 with Enrage. Whenever Frilled Death Spitter is dealt damage, it deals 2 damage to target opponent. Still can't get away from Afflict. I can't stand this design. I really, really hate it. I hate this whole thing that started with Afflict and has come through with Enrage, specifically with the damage dealing ones, where you just end up in these situations where it's like, well, I could block and that kills me, or I could not block and that kills me, and it feels so much worse. If my opponent had 15 creatures coming at me and I had 1 creature, sure, I can't do anything, I'm dead. Here, I can do 2 things. But when both of those things kill me, it just feels so much worse. This isn't Frontline Devastator, though. This isn't as bad as some of the Afflict creatures. I think it is still going to be very annoying, and I think it's going to be a real all-star in aggro decks. It's not a high pick in any way, shape, or form. It's middle of the pack at best, but I've got it at a C+. Just being a 3/2 for 3 is nice aggressive stats, and the fact that it can get in for like that one final shock, even if it's slamming into a 12/12, is pretty darn good. So Frilled Death Spitter, C+. Afflict and Afflict style mechanics, please go away. Up next is Goblin Trailblazer. Goblin Trailblazer is 1 and a red for creature Goblin Pirate at common. It's a 2/1 with Menace. It's a Piker with Menace. Pikers are playable-ish. They're pretty close to the C- level, but giving it Menace definitely bumps it up to the C, probably even a high C, but still just a C. It'll get in for like maybe one extra hit than a Piker normally would, which isn't quite enough for me to call this an auto-include, but you can play it and feel pretty decent about it, and you'll pick this relatively late mid-pack to late pack, so straight C. Up next is Mutiny. Mutiny is a single red mana for a sorcery at common. Target creature an opponent controls deals damage equal to its power to another target creature that player controls. There's a reason this is only a single red mana. I've seen people falling over themselves about how they're going to get to kill the second best creature on their opponent's board. That's fantastic. I don't buy it. Requiring your opponent to have two creatures, one of which will kill another one, and where that's actually worthwhile at sorcery speed, remember, I'm just not fully in on this. I think it's fine, and I think I'm going to start it at a C. I think I will play it in my decks, if only to find out how it actually is. But as I said, I think there's a reason this is a single red mana at common. If it was as powerful as everybody expects, it wouldn't be a single red mana. So I'm going to start this at a C. I think there's just way too many situations where this card's dead or just doesn't really do enough. You know, they have a 6/6 flying trample with an amazing ability, and they've got a 2/2. Am I really happy that I have this card in my deck and I can kill their 2/2? Not really. So C for Mutiny. If it goes up, cool. I don't expect it to. Up next is Needletooth Raptor. Needletooth Raptor is 3 and a red for a creature dinosaur at uncommon. It's a 2/2. It has Enrage. Whenever Needletooth Raptor is dealt damage, it deals 5 damage to target creature an opponent controls. A lot of this time, this says when it dies, destroy target creature. It doesn't actually say deal 5 each time it is dealt damage. It's much rarely worse, as in there's nothing but X6s on your opponent's board, but that hopefully isn't going to happen very often. And rarely it's better. It takes only a single point of damage. You somehow prevent one of those damage. You somehow make this bigger, etc. That said, the majority case is still great. A 2/2 that when it dies kills a creature for 4 mana, it is still completely fine, very highly pickable, very highly playable. If you do manage to go off with this, you turn it into a 4/4 and you just keep pinging it over and over or whatever, then it's going to be even more amazing. It's going to be tricky to do that, and you know, as I said, there are a couple of ways of enabling Enrage repeatedly that are okay, but don't go playing Rile and stuff like that. It's just not worth it. This is an easy B for me. I think it's a really high pick. I think you do this, or you pick this up in the early pack, kind of pick 3-4-ish area. And yeah, seems like a great card. Solid B. Up next is Orazga Raptor. Orazga Raptor is 2 red for a creature dinosaur at common. It's a 3/4. That's it. It's a vanilla 3/4 for 4. Double red is not really where I want to be. I much prefer 4 3s for 2 red. I think you cut this pretty regularly and you play it only when you really have to or in sealed or whatever. So C- for Orazga Raptor. Up next is Pirate's Pillage. Pirate's Pillage is 3 and a red for a sorcery at uncommon. As an additional cost to cast Pirate's Pillage, discard a card. Draw 2 cards and create 2 colorless treasure artifact tokens. So for 4 mana, pitch a card. You draw 2 and you get 2 treasures. I think that's just enough. It sort of makes this cost 2 and a card. So it's Tormenting Voice. Just you have to pay up front before you get your rebate and turn it into a Tormenting Voice. Uncommon feels a little bit high for this, rarity-wise, to be honest, but I think you can feel okay-ish playing this if you have a spot, but I don't think you go to your way. I think you do cut it a bit regularly. It seems kind of like a C, but I do tend to play Tormenting Voice and similar cards a little bit lower at like a C-. I'm not a Tormenting Voice fan most of the time, so C- for me, maybe a C for you, but probably absolutely no higher than that. Up next is Reckless Rage. Reckless Rage is a single red mana for an instant at uncommon. Reckless Rage deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control and 2 damage to target creature you control. Warning. You must have a creature of your own to target, or this spell literally cannot be cast. It cannot be put onto the stack. If you do have a creature, though, this is just solid, and hopefully you have a creature. If it's an instant speed, Bone Splinters at that point, where you kill your creature, you kills theirs, then it seems pretty good. Especially when you're hopefully killing a much more higher costed creature than the one that you're sacrificing. The dream obviously is triggering Enrage, which will lead to some really good plays, or even at worst not killing your creature, just damaging it and killing theirs. I won't put this any higher than a B- because there's going to be times, a very, very, very non-zero number of times, where you just can't cast this because you don't have a creature to target. You know, Bone Splinters kills any creature you want, but there's a lot of times where you just don't have a creature to sacrifice for it. So I'm putting this at a B-. I think it's a relatively highish pick. I think you probably always play it, I think. And yeah, you just got to be careful of those times. You probably don't play it if you're in a controlling deck, which you're in red. You're not going to be a controlling deck. So B- for Reckless Rage. Up next is Rekindling Phoenix. Rekindling Phoenix is 2 red for a creature, Phoenix at Mythic. It's a 4/3, it's got flying. When Rekindling Phoenix dies, create a 0/1 red elemental creature token with, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this creature and return target card named Rekindling Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until end of turn. 4/3 flyer for 4, solid. Totally 100% playable, pickable right there. Being super hard to permanently kill is extremely nice as well, especially because it gets haste when it comes back. Having to kill the Phoenix and the Totem, basically. Snap first pick, pretty much in the absolute bomb category. And the second A+ of this video, the second A+ in red, Rekindling Phoenix is just fantastic. And I love this design. It feels very like World of Warcraft almost, like a shaman put down a totem, and if you don't kill that totem, it's going to keep giving you a buff. In this case, a really good buff. Yeah, Rekindling Phoenix A+, you're never, ever, ever not picking this card. Up next is Sea Red. Sea Red is 1 and a red for an enchantment aura at uncommon. I hope I give this a C. Enchanted creature gets +2/+1 and has first strike. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't attack with a creature this turn, sacrifice Sea Red. It's a fine enough aura, but I do think there's a lot of more removal in this format, so you will be getting 2-for-1, way more if you keep playing auras all willy-nilly. +2/+1 and first strike for 2 mana is quite nice. You know, I've talked about how I really like 2/1s for 2 with first strike. We talked about that with Direfleet Daredevil, I want to say, was the card, you know, Ether Chaser from back in Ether Revolt. Adding that to a creature is quite nice because that creature is going to get bigger and they can attack frequently, which means you're not going to have to sacrifice Sea Red. And maybe you can even attack with something else so you don't have to sacrifice Sea Red. That being said, as I said, there is more removal in this set, so I think auras are going to go down in value. And if you stick to that auras are fantastic plan, you're going to get blown out quite a bit. So I'm going to keep Sea Red at a C- for now. Could go lower if auras do go back to just being bad, and probably won't be any higher anyways. Up next is Shake the Foundations. Shake the Foundations is 2 and a red for an instant at uncommon. Shake the Foundations deals 1 damage to each creature without flying. Draw a card. Sideboard only. Like Ryle, I don't think you play this card to enable Enrage, especially if you're up against somebody else with Enrage, because this will trigger theirs as well. But boy, you see a bunch of Vampire tokens, you jam this in from the sideboard. It's just a D for me. Don't play this to enable Enrage. Play the Forerunner. Play, you know, Rampaging Swordtooth. Or just play Magic and enable Enrage that way. This is too janky for me. I don't want to waste this card slot with this card. I don't want to potentially enable my opponent's Enrage. I don't want a card that kills off my Nest Robbers and etc. So Shake the Foundation, a D. Up next is Shatter. Shatter's a very old card back from Alpha. 1 and a red for an instant at common. Destroy target artifact. Another sideboard only card, and a pretty mediocre one at that. There's like the occasional artifact that you would want to devote an entire card in your deck to, but not really that many at all in this format. So sideboard only and pretty bad at that, so D-. Up next is Silverclad Ferocidons. Silverclad Ferocidons is 5 red for a creature dinosaur at rare. It's an 8/5. It has Enrage. Whenever Silverclad Ferocidons is dealt damage, each opponent sacrifices a permanent. This is pretty stupid, but it is 7 mana. Have this in play with a Forerunner of the Empire and drop some dinosaurs, and it's going to get real annoying for your opponent. Like the white one, this one's very, 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 very good, and I think it's powerful enough to be great. I'm putting this at an A-. It's just quite missing out because of that 7 mana cost, because you're in red. You're not really looking for this. You probably just flat out have to be red-green in order to realistically play this. But yeah, if you ramp to this, your opponent's going to be in for a bad time. So A- for Steel-Clad Ferocidons. Up next is Stampeding Horncrest. Stampeding Horncrest is 4 and a red for a creature dinosaur at common. It's a 4/4. Stampeding Horncrest has haste as long as you control a dinosaur. Another dinosaur, sorry. It would trigger itself that way. The upside is that if you're in a dinosaur deck, by turn 5, this should have haste. And a 4/4 for 5 with haste is fine. Good might be a strong word, but it's fine. There's no trample or anything else going on with it, so yeah, good's a strong word. It is possibly just a 4/4 without haste, though, which is just bad. As a result, I think you do cut this somewhat regularly, even in a dense dinosaur deck. I think you only play this if you really need a 5-drop or you really need another card or something. So I've got this at a C-. I think you cut it pretty reliably, dinosaur or not. Up next is Stormfleet Swashbuckler. Stormfleet Swashbuckler is hard to say. It's 1 and a red for a creature human pirate at uncommon. It's a 2/2. It's got Ascend. Stormfleet Swashbuckler has double strike as long as you have the city's blessing. So the vanilla test is just, it's going to go obsolete at some point, I assume, specifically to do with bears. We're at the point where a vanilla 2/2 for 2 is frequently bad because things like this thing exist. We'll need a new baseline at some point. Anyways, a 2/2 for 2 I'll say is still fine enough to be playable, but someday becoming a 2/2 double strike that you only had to invest 2 mana into, or you draw late and is only 2 mana, is an easy sell. Very good creature. Not a super high pick, but a high mid-pack pick. I've got this at a B-. I don't think you ever don't play this. B- for Stormfleet Swashbuckler. Sun-Collared Raptor is up next. Sun-Collared Raptor is 1 and a red for a creature dinosaur at common. It's a 1/2. It's got trample. Pay 2 and a red. Sun-Collared Raptor gets +3/+0 until end of turn. So it has fire breathing, but you must pay 3. You must activate it 3 times, basically. 1/2 for 2, no. Just no. 3 mana to make it a 4/2. Still no. This feels real cuttable, and I don't want to play this card if I can help it. It's sealed fodder if I have desperately needing to get a creature into my deck or something, and in draft, yeah, you don't really take this card. You don't really play this card. If you are, you're probably feeling a little bit bad. So C- for Sun-Collared Raptor. Up next is Swaggering Corsair. Swaggering Corsair is 2 and a red for a creature human pirate at common. It's a 2/2 with raid. Swaggering Corsair enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it if you attacked with a creature this turn. We already talked about this. A 2/2 for 3 is not where you want to be. You just do not want to play that card. That card is unplayable. Getting a vanilla 3/3 for 3 is 100% okay. You would always play that, basically. Especially in red, which historically hasn't gotten too many vanilla test passer cards. Like Deathspitter, this is nowhere near a high pick, but one that you'll be happy to have in all but the most defensive decks. You want to make sure that you're an aggressive tech. You want to make sure that you have a bunch of 2-drops, preferably some 1-drops. You're going to have attacked on turn 2 is the plan. If you're not, you do cut this. But in the decks that are definitely going to attack on turn 2, this is a C+. Up next, our second last card is Tillinolly's Crown. Tillinolly's Crown is 1 and a red for an enchantment aura at common enchant creature. When Tillinolly's Crown enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to enchanted creature. Enchanted creature gets +3/+0 and has trample. Again, I think this is a bad enrage enabler that I don't think you should play. You open yourself up to getting 2 for 1 with the removal that's in the set, the instant speed removal that's in the set. You maybe get an enrage trigger. If you hit your enrage creature, you may just end up having to cast this on something that doesn't have enrage. You can't put it on your X1s because they would die. +3/+0 and trample is cool, but I don't know that I want to spend a card on this. So I think it's around a C+. I'm not really happy with it. I'm not going to play it to start with, at least. And our final card for red is Tillinolly's Summoner. Tillinolly's Summoner is 1 and a red for a creature human shaman at rare. She's a 1/1 with Ascend. Whenever Tillinolly's Summoner attacks, you may pay X and red. If you do, create X 1/1 red elemental creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. At the beginning of the next end step, exile those tokens unless you have the city's blessing. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's yet another 2-mana 1/1. And it has to attack to get the ability, which means it's going to die. unless your opponent has no creatures on the board, in which case I would rather attack with something that's not a 1/1. I would rather have a 2/2 in my deck than this card. If you have the City's Blessing, at least you can attack in with it and make like maybe 5 1/1s that then stick around, but then you've got 5 1/1s. I don't think that's really gonna be what gets you there. So no, I'm real out on this card. It just dies to everything. It virtually has to die in order to do anything in the first place. I've got a hard pass on this. I think it's just an F. I think it is a bad card. I think it is a trap. I am not touching this card. F. So that's going to wrap it up for the red Rivals of Ixalan set review. Some very fun cards in here. A couple of A+s that I think are going to be fantastic. I really want to try Italy. I need to find out how to pronounce that as well. Let me know if you have an official pronunciation. I don't think I've heard it said anywhere. In the comments down below. Actually, I should check the Ixalan art book, which I have, although I don't think those have ever really said pronunciations. Anyways, let me know in the comments below what you think of red, what cards you're excited about, which ratings do you agree with, disagree with, chat with me, chat with each other down there. Keep it respectful or else. If you do have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at the Mana Leek. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can find me at facebook.com/themanaleek, twitch.tv/themanaleek, and patreon.com/manaleek. If you like the content, click that thumbs up button, click subscribe if you want to see more. And if you do have questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see you all tomorrow.